Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. Welcome aboard. Tonight is Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. This is live stream 914. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We're just hanging out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and we'll normally take a first look at a new game or a game that is new to me and sometimes you as well. So we are not engaging in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination, just hanging out, having some fun. And tonight, I am going to dive in and take a first look at Castles and Crusades in the Shadow of Aufstrag from Troll Lord Games. And we can thank Stephen Loudermilk for sending this along. I will talk about that a little bit when we actually dive on in for the first look. So it is not a review copy from Troll Lord Games. Like I said, I'll get into the details in just a bit. So do want to point out, if you're not familiar with this show and you are tuning in because you want to check out the first look at In the Shadow of Aufstrag, got to point out it's going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we jump on into that first look, because we always tackle the tabletop gaming news of the day first. So keep that in mind. If you're hanging out live, put your feet up, relax, enjoy yourself. Maybe you're a subscriber to the channel. You'll have something to occupy your time. Well, I'm covering the tabletop gaming news as well. I'll talk about that in just a sec. Regardless, if you are watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream has ended, and you are an impatient type, and you just gotta get into that first look, you'll be able to do that. There are timestamps. They are located in the show notes, and depending on the device you happen to be watching this on, those timestamps might also be right there in the timeline of the video, right in front of your eyes. When you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live stream, and I did mention if you are a subscriber to the channel, you might have something to occupy your time, and that would be chat. Yes, there is chat available. It's not on screen. One of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And as I just mentioned, you must be a subscriber to the channel, at least for 48 hours, before you can take part in chat. That's another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. Maybe you want a closer look at something in the Castles and Crusades adventure campaign we're going to take a look at. Pipe up. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Kevin R. Smith, as well as Magilla Gorilla. How much is that gorilla in the window? Was it Mr. Peebles? Was he the guy who ran the pet store? pretty sure. For some reason, that's what's popping in my head. Mr. Peebles. The Motor City Madman is with us, as is Flaming Heron, two of our chat moderators hanging out with us as well. Chuck Terrell is also popping on into chat. So, Madman says they'll be listening, so everybody behave. Don't make him pull over. So the Madman's working on some mapping for his Savage Worlds. I think it's Savage Worlds you're still running, right? Isn't that it? Or have you moved on to something else? I thought it was Savage Pathfinder for some strange reason. Maybe I'm just pulling that out of the air somehow. I thought that's what the Madman was running. So he's working on some mapping. So don't make me turn this show around. All right? Yeah, Flaming Heron, he's still here. And I wouldn't be shocked if Sarah D is lurking, as possibly is Mr. Eddie T. They are also chat moderators as well. So the Madman says it is Adventures in Middle-earth for 5e. Well. Which the new edition is coming out, I think it's May. I think the Free League, the actual physical copies of, isn't it Middle-earth Roleplay? I forget what they're calling it. Maybe it is Adventures in Middle-earth. I can't keep it straight. Not with, the One Ring, and then the One Ring second edition, and then we had Adventures in Middle-earth, and we had Middle-earth role-playing back in the day, and just say it's Tolkien for D&D. Done. All righty then, let's jump on into the news because I've got some cool stuff I'd like to tell you about. First off, there is a new board game. It is arriving from Ares Games next week. I've got the lowdown on Cangacerios, or something along that pronunciation. In Brazil in the late 1800s and early 1900s, large landowners called Corenes starved the northeast of the country in an extensive area that included the Salto Desert. In this climate of corruption and abuse, the Cangacerios, bandits who violently opposed the status quo, were born. Cangacerios is a strategic competitive game, or whatever it's called, in which each player plays a gang that tries to survive in hostile desert territories while being hunted by the volantes, the state police, trained to kill them. It's a good family game, I can see. Each band has a chief chosen from the 20 available, each with its own unique abilities and characteristics. The management of each 7-card deck is fundamental, with players using cards to collect resources, place bandits to guard a region, attack the volantes, assault the prison of the city of Recife, convert accumulated resources into fame, train their leader, and recruit new members for the gang. You win by accumulating fame points, which are obtained by attacking the volantes, but also by training your boss to solve his life goal and help him retire in glory. It's kind of an interesting win condition. You also gain fame points in several other ways, and whoever collects the most fame is the winner. Cangacerios is for 2 to 5 players, ages 13 and up, plays in around 60 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $65 when it makes its way into stores next week. Well. I am intrigued. This is unlike anything out there, really. I kind of get the impression this might be one of those games where you've got your 7-card hand and you can play one action, and then the next round you have to put that action to the side. You can't repeat it. I would not be shocked by that. But this sounds very unique. I am intrigued. What can I say? So, Kevin mentions its adventures in Middle Earth. Yes, I know. I was joking about the Middle Earth role-playing. I know that was Iron Crown Enterprises. The Rollmaster Light, as Kevin's pointing out. Sly Blue Demon is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. And Sarah D is poking out and saying howdy. She is lurking indeed, she mentions. On to the next news piece. Darrington Press is going to release, at least as far as I understand, their first board game. Here's the latest on Queen by Midnight. The Midnight Queen is dead, and her kingdom weeps. The Queen's dying command was to invoke the rule by midnight, a trial of combat and guile, where the princesses of the 12 lands meet in secret to battle and scheme against one another. At the stroke of midnight, the most powerful princess left standing will be crowned the new Midnight Queen. Queen by Midnight is a battle royale deck-building card game of guile, deception, and brawn. 6 princesses each feature unique tactics to battle for the right of the Midnight Court, but only one, and maybe their inner circle, will be the winner. This game features a table presence you won't see anywhere else, with its intricate dice clock tower that spins to face each player on their turn, keeps track of the round, presents new cards to buy, and even acts as a dice roller, thus calling it a dice clock tower. The centerpiece of this game is that stunning clock dice tower that tracks turns, offers cards to buy, and rolls your dice. Well, you actually roll the dice. You put the dice in it. It's not like teleporting dice into itself to roll them for you. It also spins to face each player on their turn. Nearly 200 cards are themed to your specific princess, with an additional 75 bizarre cards available to customize your deck. Tokens, trackers, boards, and other cards make gameplay easy to track, even when things are getting heated. Queen by Midnight is for 3 to 6 players, ages 12 and up, plays in 60 to 90 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $69.99. When it arrives in August, I believe this is going to be a Gen Con release. So here's what I'm a little bit curious about, because in the sell sheet info, it says nearly 200 cards are themed to your specific princess. So there are 6 princesses. That would make 12, almost 1,200 cards for the princesses. It doesn't look like there's 1,200 cards in this game. I think it should have said there are nearly 200 cards that are themed to the princesses, with an additional 75 bizarre cards available to customize your deck. That's what I would think it probably is. Not positive, though. Definitely like the art style. Does look like this has an interesting and unique table presence. But here's one of the things that I'm curious about. And those of you out there in chat, let me know what you think. Sometimes when I see a game like this, where it is specifically female characters, or specifically all male characters, I think that's a little bit of a turnoff for some people, because some folks do not want to play a character of the opposite sex in a game. It's just how it works. That's why we tend to see a lot of games which will have kind of the same character, but both genders. A lot of times you flip the card over and one side's male, the other side's female. Not the case here. All the characters are princesses, so I wonder. Kind of curious. Plus, like I said, I believe this is going to be the first board game release from Darrington Press. Of course, if you're not overly familiar with them, they are the gaming arm of Critical Role. So there is that. Yes, I like that clock tower, though. Or I should say the clock dice tower. Dice clock tower, I think was what they were calling it. Let's talk about some role-playing game news, because the 2300 AD campaign Project Bayern box set is now making its way into stores from Mongoose Publishing. Here's the skinny. The Pleiades have long been a source of wonder and inspiration to humans who observe them in the fall and winter skies of Earth. Project Bayern provides an immense amount of source material for the I always go to say 23,000, but it's not. It's 2300 AD referee, detailing the historic flight of the starship Bayern as it leaves human space to cross more than 450 light years of unexplored territory before reaching the Pleiades star cluster in the constellation of Taurus. This set contains all the data needed to run an ongoing campaign of adventures based around the monumental voyage of the Bayern. Details on the ship and its auxiliary vehicles are included to give both travelers and referees a full understanding of their limitations and capabilities. Background information on the Astronomische Recheninstitut will allow the travelers to identify what the goals of the mission and understand more completely this unique foundation. Biographical information on the flight crew and heads of the scientific team provides ready-made travelers or fully developed NPCs. Furthermore, a section on the Pleiades provides astrophysical information on the star cluster. Inside, you're going to find Book 1, Mission Profile, Book 2, Technical Reference Manual, Book 3, Primary Mission Objectives, and Book 4, Secondary Mission Objectives. Little dry as far as the book titles there, I would say. Also includes a giant poster map showing the many decks of the Bayern on one side and a star chart on the other. The Project Bayern box set carries an MSRP of $99.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone. It clocks in at 314 pages. You can grab that over at DriveThruRPG for $49.99. So Kevin is pointing out how many cards there would be for the Midnight Queen. Got to try to break down. Okay, so 40 for each princess, 75 generic cards. That's 315 cards. Don't know. So Flaming Heron says, I'm with you to some degree, Jeff, talking about the gender thing. I figure board games are a bit different to tabletop role-playing games, though. Myself, I don't have an issue because the gender is irrelevant. Yeah, I'm just mentioning it because I have heard from people in the past when we run across a board game that only features one gender as far as the characters that the players are taking on, I tend to hear people complain. So just bringing that up. Roger Perdome and Testy Trekkie are hanging with the gang tonight. Welcome aboard. So gotta say, Project Bayern, to my knowledge, was one of the most popular 2300 AD campaigns that had ever been released back when it was from Game Designer's Workshop. And I'm kind of curious what Mongoose Publishing has done as far as, reviving it for the latest edition of 2300 AD, which, interestingly enough, is marketed as a traveler role-playing game by Mongoose Publishing. Even shows Traveler right on the cover. So, don't know, because I know the 2300 AD setting with Game Designer's Workshop, ended up really not being part of the Traveler universe. It is with Mongoose Publishing. Moving on to our next news piece. Arriving this week in print for Scion's second edition is Masks of the Mythos. Here's the dope from Onyx Path Publishing. The mythos is older than humanity, gods and titans, with an unknowable otherness that can shatter them all. This slumbering horror lurks in the shadows, carrying out its alien machinations with little regard for those beneath it until it requires pawns. Those that touch the mythos are forever altered. The world explodes into full view for them, leaving some shattered, others power mad, and still others knowing only secrecy protects humanity. Mythos scions fare a little better, empowered by these alien beings that alter their very essence, the ability to break fate and leave the walls of reality weaker in their wake. These human embodiments of the mythos are not good or evil. Such easily definable morality is for lesser beings. What does one do when their power comes with a cost? Some highlights of Masks of the Mythos include an entirely new pantheon, the Mythos, a trove of new callings and relics, expanded investigation rules, a detailed tour of the Miskatonic Hollow, including Arkham and Innsmouth, an introductory scenario for a new band of scions. Do you have the willpower to face the mythos? To become the mythos? The 196-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $39.99, or you can grab just the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Tessie Trekkie says, if there's one game where punching Cthulhu in its face is reasonable, it's Scion. Tessie Trekkie pointed out, good morning, fellow serpent person and human skins. All righty. All right. Isn't Scion kind of a superhero game? Isn't that the storyteller superhero system? For some reason I thought it was. Because I know I guess it is World of Darkness in some ways. Maybe. I don't know. I thought it was, but it's kind of a superhero themed. All I know is Onyx Path Publishing has a lot of different systems. Tessie Treggy said the books are Hero, Demigod, and God. And now Master of the Mythos. Final news piece, now available in PDF from Modiphius Entertainment, is Fallout the role-playing game, Orange Colored Sky. Here's what I know. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. In this PDF quest for Fallout the role-playing game, a group of doctors and other caregivers have established a clinic in Mount Sin Central, an ancient hospital in the middle of a ruined city. They offer treatment for ailments of all sorts, and Mount Sin has recently received an influx of chem addicts who are resistant to the usual forms of medical intervention. The problem is becoming more widespread, and the already overworked hospital staff are running on fumes, while their supplies are rapidly dwindling. Moreover, the chems involved seem to originate within the territory of a raider gang, which makes fixing the problem even more difficult. The Board of Caregivers have sent out a distress call via Mount Sin's emergency broadcast beacon. Will you answer their desperate pleas for help? The Orange Colored Sky PDF features a 22-page adventure in 3 acts for character levels 6 to 10. There's a hospital full of medics and patients in need of help, locations to explore within the hospital itself and in the surrounding area, and it can be placed in any urban landscape in your own games. The 22-page PDF of Fallout, the role-playing game Orange Colored Sky, is available over at DriveThruRPG for $7.50. I can't believe that this is actually the first adventure supplement for Fallout, the role-playing game. I was like, wait, what? Now, I know there have been some freebies, but I guess this is the first that's considered to be a full-fledged adventure supplement. That's why it says issue number 1 of Astonishingly Awesome Tales. Tessie Trekkie says that Scion is separate from World of Darkness. It is not the same. Cool deal. But I do believe it does use a storyteller system. I thought that's kind of a given with most of the, if not all, of the Onyx Path Publishing role-playing games out there. So Modiphius Entertainment has quite a bit cooking. There was an announcement they made earlier today. I'm going to share that on tomorrow's show, because I already had all my news done when that popped up. But it's pretty interesting. It is pretty interesting indeed. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was recently just talking about the different things that you can pick up over at DriveThruRPG. And of course, keep in mind, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, besides just giving it a thumbs up, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And thankfully, there are quite a few people out there who use our One Bookshelf banners and or visit paypal.me. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. Because if you're not overly familiar with the Gaming Gang, I don't do Kickstarters. I don't reach into your pocket with Patreons and things like that to stick around. Just not my bag of tricks. All I got to say. Alrighty then. So we are going to be diving on into in the Shadow of Aufstrag. It is Aufstrag. It's Aufstrag. Kind of an odd name. Don't know. So we're going to be taking a peek at that in just a few moments. But let me grab a quick sip here. There was something I wanted to share with you. I had to chuckle because I do not actually have my high school yearbooks. I haven't had my high school yearbooks since I was, I don't know, maybe 20 years old. As Quantum Phase Dragon pops on in. Good to see you, QPD. So I stumbled across the high school yearbooks from when I was at Lane Tech, or Albert G. Lane Technical High School, to be precise, in Chicago. And I was able to pull some images for you. A couple of images I'm going to share. And, you know, I've mentioned before that the Gaming Gang, the name at least, kind of originates from our high school gaming club. And it was the Gamers Guild. And I have 2 pictures from the 1982 and 1983 yearbooks. So here's the first yearbook picture. We'll start off with the 1982. And as you can see, the club was pretty small. Ta-da! There we go. So you may not be able to pick me out of the group there. And then I follow that up with a picture of the Gamers Guild from 1983. And you'll notice how many more people are part of the club. And I was the president of the club in 83 and 84. So I'll give you a moment to take a peek at these, see if anybody can figure out which one I am in these photos. Of course, you don't have enough time to really read the names and stuff like that. But funny enough, in both pictures, I'm sitting next to my best friend, Elliot Miller. So he is in both pictures sitting next to me. And the 1983 picture, it's kind of funny because there are still some people in that picture that I'm still in touch with through social media, except for Elliot, obviously. He's still my best friend. And I thought it was pretty wild. I was like, oh my gosh. So give you a second here. So the 1982, you will see I am in the lower left, second from the left, and I am wearing a flannel shirt. And then in this image you're taking a look at now, I am in the lower right, second from the right. I'll wait for that to come back around. And I am actually wearing like a vest. It was like a down vest. Oh yes, those early 80s fashions. I used to have, it was a jacket that the sleeves would zip off. It was like, okay. But my friends, Tim Phelan, Scott Weigel, Daryl Melzer are all in, Tim's not in this picture. Scott and Daryl are in this picture here. So here it says, see, I told you, you're a fashionista. Kevin says, look at all that curly hair. I know, I've always had a mop. Always had a mop. So Flaming Heron says, hey, at least you got a picture in your yearbook. Teacher responsible for his lost it. Didn't even rate a mention either. Yeah, each yearbook, although I gotta say, I don't think we still had the club in 84. I don't remember. I don't think we had a picture. I don't think we did a picture that year for some strange reason. But yes, so in each of the yearbooks, at least with the Gamers Guild pictures, I have 2 entries. I've got one, well, for like lower classmen or students who weren't seniors. We were just in our division or homeroom, people would call it at other schools. We call it division for some strange reason. So we would have our division pictures. And then, of course, as seniors, we had our graduation pictures too. So, yes, man, that is so long ago. 40, well, one of them's 41 years old. The other is 40 years old. And I shared this on Twitter, and I had mentioned that I've been in this hobby a long, long time. Some people may not believe it, but I have. And I also have to mention that Elliot's daughter, Aaliyah, watches the show once in a while. So I'm wondering if she'll have an opportunity to see this episode and actually see some pictures of her dad that she has probably never, ever seen before. So, Flaming Heron says, Jeff knows what he's talking about. Well, sometimes I do. So I just thought, yeah, for the hell of it, I'll share that with everybody. But now, Scott, every once in a while, will pop into chat. So we have seen my friend Scott Weigel pop into chat. There are some regulars in chat right now who have been here when Scott pops in. From my understanding, Tim, my friend Tim Phelan, still games a little bit. I think he games with his family, because he has asked me a few times on Facebook what I think of XYZ game, or if I can recommend a game. So I think he does that. He's not a huge gamer anymore. Interesting little tidbit. Now, in the 1983 image, there was somebody, Carl, if I remember correctly, his last name was Benninghaus or Benninghauser. I think it was Benninghaus. And Tim and him and a few other people from high school played through the, what is it? The Mountains of Madness campaign for Call of Cthulhu. It's not at the Mountains of Madness, obviously enough. But I had the campaign. I never ran it. But they actually played through it and wrote it up. And I remember, I don't know if you can still find it floating around out there. But 10 years or so ago, it was still out there. And it was just like articles, somebody writing up, what was going on. And it was told more from a gamer's perspective. It wasn't like, all right, I'm going to write this, novella. It was from the gamer's perspective, but it was very, very interesting because it took him, I think, a couple of years to play through it. Unfortunately, as far as I understand, Carl passed away a few years ago, but he was a big Call of Cthulhu fan. I think he was the keeper in that campaign. So just, throwing out a little nostalgia. Coco B is with us, says, wow, Gaming Gang Grognards. It's like, yep. In fact, my friend Daryl, who was in both of those pictures, he still, well, as far as I know, he still games. It's been a few years since I talked to him, like maybe 3 or 4. But he was actually, they were playing a Pathfinder campaign. Then he got married, so I don't know. I don't know if that put a kibosh on the gaming, but I think it was like every Saturday or every other Saturday they got together playing. So Kevin says, oh, so it's like the play reports they used to write in old gamer fanzines. Yeah, kind of, what do they used to call them? Battle reports? Along those lines. You see that with a lot of miniatures games. Russell Higgins is hanging with us. Welcome, Russell. All right. So like I said, just, I don't know, stumbled across that. I was like, I'll share it. So as I mentioned, we are going to be diving on into Castles and Crusades in the Shadow of Aufstrag from Troll Lord Games in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
My name is John. I don't like a beer intended for ladies. I like a light beer, brewed for men. Have a belt of Peel's Honest Beer. Discover a light beer, brewed for men.
My name is George. I don't like a beer intended for ladies. I like a light beer, brewed for men. Have a belt of Peel's Honest Beer. Discover a light beer, brewed for men.
My name is Rita. I don't like a beer intended for ladies. I like a light beer, brewed for men. Do have a belt of Peel's Honest Beer. Discover a light beer, brewed for men.
I wave my magic wand. I wave it twice. I don't drink Wilkins. I wave it again.
Still tied score. And here's the tie-breaking question for Penella with her magic Etch-a-Sketch and her opponent Maximilian with his magnetic Magnastix. Ready? Draw or build the biggest animal in the jungle. It's the elephant. They're both right. How do they do it? Etch-a-Sketch draws and writes like magic. Turn the knobs and the lines go up and down and all around. No crayons, no chalks, never any mess. Turn Etch-a-Sketch upside down and shake and everything disappears. Magnastix builds things magnetically. No nails, no screws, no messy glue. You get over 100 pieces to make trains, planes, animals, dolls, and pretty designs. Develop artistic and scientific skills with Etch-a-Sketch and Magnastix. They're kid-tested toys from the Ohio Art Company. Hi-yo!
I don't want no beer made for a woman. I do find it interesting that the two actors that they start off that commercial with were both character actors. And you would certainly recognize the first. You probably wouldn't recognize the second, but you would definitely recognize their voice. So, Peel's beer. Beer made for a man. What the hell is the pouring looked like a shot glass of beer. It's like, what? Wasn't a rocks glass. That was too small to be a rocks glass. Okie dokie. So Sarah says, my mother would have called them all something worse than ladies for drinking light beer. She always said she needed all the calories in the regular. Well, you may have heard the, I think it was what, Belgium? Belgium destroyed, what was it, 2,000 bottles of Miller High Life because it said, because their tagline on it is champagne of beers. You cannot have anything calling itself champagne that is not sparkling wine from the Champagne region of France. So they destroyed something like 2,000 bottles of Miller High Life, which it was Miller High Life, so it wasn't really that big a loss. Yes, Miller Lite is the family label, seeing that my best friend's Elliot Miller. But no, we never drank High Life. Of course, got to say, High Life isn't as bad as, say, Milwaukee's Best or something like that. Russell says it's been the champagne of beers for 125 years. I get it. I understand. So, Sly Blue Demon says, wait, are you saying you don't take shots of your beer? Yeah, I like to drop shots of my beer into a beer. And I call that the anti-boiler maker. Tessie Treggy says, beer made for a man by men with men. And Fleming Aaron says, yeah, that was a very unmanly glass. It's like, oh, that's manly beer. All righty then. So tonight, I am going to dive on in and take a look at the box set of Castles and Crusades in the Shadow of Aufstrag from Troll Lord Games. It is written by Davis Chenault with artwork provided by Peter Bradley and Jason Walton. I got to admit, I don't think this box set is available anymore. And the way I got it was actually sent to me by someone who is a fan of the Gaming Gang. So the PDF is available still. You can get it at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. I believe, if I remember correctly, it clocks in at somewhere around 133 pages. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got In the Shadow of Aufstrag for Castles and Crusades. So as I mentioned, somebody sent me this. So Stephen Loudermilk was following some of the coverage I had shared of Castles and Crusades and reached out, sent me an email and pointed out, hey, you know what? They had ordered this from Troll Lord Games and they ended up getting 2 copies of it. So they had contacted Troll Lord Games and said, I accidentally got 2 of these. And they said, don't worry about it, just keep it. So Russell Higgins says, Gaming Gang has fans. Go figure. Something I should point out, please keep in mind, it is the Gaming Gang. Not Gaming Gang, it is the Gaming Gang. That's why our initials are TGG. So I had to point that out because if you were on, well, this might not be the case now, but it was not too long ago. If you were on YouTube and you searched for Gaming Gang, you got some video from gang members teaching you how to flash gang signs. Yes. So I don't want any affiliation with that. Thank you kindly. All right. Anyway, so Stephen reached out and said, hey, you know what? I've got this extra copy. I'm more than happy to send it to you. And I said, sure. Sounds great. So this is the box set. Like I said, I don't think this is available any longer. This box set did carry an MSRP of $29.99. I took a peek online, like Amazon and things like that, out of stock. And of course, if you go to trolllord.com, you will not find it there either. But you will find the book. So, and once again, as I pointed out, this is available in PDF also. Something else that I encountered today, actually, is that the third part of the Umbridge saga is now out. I think, if I remember correctly, I think this is the A series of adventures. So it starts off with A0 and runs through A5. And I think there's a bunch of adventures that make up the A series. Like 15 adventures, something like that. So this is the first part. I'm going to take a peek at the back here because this is also on the back of the box, but it wasn't real clear. It was a little grainy, actually. For 1,000 years, Unklar, the Horned God, ruled from his throne in the great towers of Aufstrag. His rule ended in the long winter dark wars and the heroes of that age swept him away and into the great empty. Amidst the ruins of his rule, a new world was born. But memories run deep, and the stain of Unkar's reign is not so easily rooted out. His minions haunt the dark places of the world. They occupy forgotten temples, ruined dungeons, castles on the borderlands. From these bastions, they plot the return of their horned master, or at the very least, the terror of men. There is perhaps no greater bastion for the refugees of Aufstrag than the Blacktooth Ridge. Here evil resides and thrives. Treasures abound, hidden magic lies unused and forgotten. There is wealth and bounty ripe for the taking, and land and title for those so interested. In this wild country, in the very shadow of Aufstrag, the Umbrage saga begins. In the Shadow of Aufstrag is an adventure for 3 to 8 low to mid-level characters. It contains overland and dungeon adventures and sets the characters on the journey to Aufstrag. There is enough setting material and adventure hooks to allow the castle keeper to create multiple adventures. So it says this includes A0 to A5, just like I thought. And then there's some other goodies in the box we'll be taking a peek at as well. The Guild Gorilla says their box is like that too, where it's not real clear. So that's fine. I mean, it's clear on the book. It's all that really matters. So before we dive in, do want to mention this is an adventure book. So if you are a player and you are hoping that your castle keeper is going to run this A0 through A5, any of them, I would definitely recommend you tune out. Because even though I know absolutely nothing about this campaign, there will be some spoilers as we page through. I don't want to ruin any of the surprises that you might have because you were sitting here checking out this video. So, but you might want to let your castle keeper know about this video in case they're considering picking this up so they can make a much more informed buying decision regarding In the Shadow of Aufstrag. All right, let's take a peek. I really like Castles and Crusades. I know I talk about it quite often. It is one of those fantasy role-playing systems that I believe would be lots of fun. And I think its heart is in the right place. That it has a nice old school vibe to it without just rehashing the same old AD&D, OD&D mechanics. So it utilizes far more modern mechanics. So it looks like we've got an introduction to the area, to this setting. So we get a breakdown of the Blacktooth Ridge. As far as I understand, there's a lot of adventures that take place in this area, not just the A series. So A0, Rising Knight, is an introductory adventure for those playing Castles and Crusades. The module has been designed to allow for the players and castle keeper alike to begin using Castle and Crusades rules in a fairly non-demanding game setting. The goal is to familiarize the castle keeper and players with the basic rules and their applications while undertaking an exciting adventure. The module is also designed for modularity and expansion. Many of the encounters, monsters, settings, and non-player characters can be removed from the context of the adventure and placed within those of your own making. All right, so let's see what we've got going on here. So it's designed for a party of 4 to 6 first-level adventurers. I really am considering running some Castles and Crusades. I know I bounce around different fantasy role-playing systems. It's like, do I want to run Dungeon Crawl Classics? Do I want to run Castles and Crusades? What I really am considering doing And if you were watching last night, I talked about how I might change the scheduling of the dispatch to Tuesday through Thursday so that I can play games on Monday nights, because it is kind of the only night that I can kind of get things set up with my nephew. Oh, Flaming Huron says, yes, in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, I did run some Whiffrip for my gang. It's just super difficult to get everybody together, especially Elliot. Elliot and his son, very, very tough. As I mentioned last night, it's like every couple of months I get to hang around with Elliot and, maybe spend like 6 hours playing games outside of when, of course, we went up to Lake Geneva for GaryCon. All right, so it says the Drundiri River runs narrow and fast through much of its course before tumbling into the lowlands beneath the fallow hills. From there, the river spreads out across fertile plains, laboring slowly to the south before emptying into the Elmarsh Lake. Until recently, this area was unsettled. The writ of the King of New Enoch has changed all of this. Several small villages, thorps, and farming communities have been settled in this region since the king's permission was granted. The village of Melforton, nestled along the banks of the Drundiri River near the fallow hills, is just such a place. So is this going to be a bit of our, Hamlet? Anyway, I was going to say, one of the things I'm considering doing is busting out like some old D&D adventures and just porting them over to Castles and Crusades and running it for my nephew and probably my brother and my niece, maybe some of my nephew's friends. I just think it would be pretty wild to introduce the kids, although now my nephew's 21. Anyway, I think it would kind of be cool to introduce them to like the old D&D adventures. So let's see, what is going on here? Trying to see what our adventure is. Melforton lies in the East March. This frontier region is known to be open to raiders, bandits, and other nefarious creatures who fear no retribution from the West. So many villainous malcontents and upstarts thus come here to raid, and with each passing success, act with ever more audacity. Now Melforton has come under a more dire and grievous threat than ever before. A vicious Knoll warrior, Gridznak the Bold, has come to the fallow hills and taken up residence in an abandoned temple. From here, his band of raiders have encroached ever more often upon the steads of Melforton, taking cattle, grain stores, and stealing away a few residents for slaves or worse. So there you go. That is our big baddie. Of course, we're not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a good feel for what's in the Shadow of Aufstrag. So it looks like this village might be the base of operations to start off with. I was going to say, I think this A0 is a relatively short adventure. Looks like it was. Oh, we get a name list. That's kind of cool. So I would take a guess not everyone in the town is named. Kind of like Hamlet, right? Village of Hamlet. We have some named NPCs and others. It's like, figure it out yourself. Okay, then we have A1, Assault on Blacktooth Ridge. A1 steak sauce, yes. This module is designed primarily for adventurers who have just recently begun on their path to glory, wealth, and fame. In all, it should allow characters a safe place from which to begin exploring a dangerous region, accumulate some wealth, some enemies, and even some friends. If properly executed and attention given to small details, it will allow for the development of plots and themes of numerous types and natures, which should engage the characters for several gaming sessions, if not more. Let's see. Looking to find what is our underlying story here. There's some sort of an assault on Blacktooth Ridge, we know that. Oh, it looks like we've got some raiders again. Let's see. Ludensheim, a town near Botkenberg, has a new ruler, Ritter Diebold Heimer. He likens himself a baron and seeks to acquire an oath of fealty from Volkmar Botkin and to control Botkenberg. Heimer has too few resources to manage this on his own, though, and so has decided to seek help from another source. Diebold has concocted a plan to force Volkmar Botkin to come to him for aid. He has offered a notorious band of goblin raiders, the Redcaps, or Rattenkips, gold and a free hand in raiding along the Ursen River if they focus their raids on Botkenberg. After a time, Diebold expects Volkmar to come seeking aid to defeat the goblin raiders. In compensation, Diebold will demand fealty of Volkmar, and once given, end the raiding by paying off the Redcaps. Oh, why do I think that's not going to actually happen? I just got a feeling. All right. So we're going to get early portion here. I think is going to give us a breakdown of this new village. That's what it looks like here. There is a map book as well that we're going to take a quick peek at. So there we go. Finally get a little bit of a dungeon layout. Krugel's Lair. Krugel's Lair is nothing more than an ancient guard post once used for keeping watch on traffic moving up and down the Rusen River. It is located on the east cliff face overlooking the Rusen River and on the Blacktooth Ridge. It is only accessible through a secret tunnel above it. Oh, great. Now I told everybody there's a secret tunnel. This looks kind of interesting. This has kind of that old school vibe to it, too. Ooh, we get a troll bridge. Ooh, and we get a troll on the troll bridge. Yes. I will take a stab in the dark, and so will the troll, no doubt. That is probably not something the player characters are going to want to take on at first or second level here. Flaming Heron says a not-so-secret tunnel now. The Vargolg. The Vargolg is an ancient underground complex once used as a secret storehouse and barracks for one of Aufstrag's regiments. The complex was abandoned long before Unklar's demise, and except for an occasional wandering ogre and other maleficent creature, sat unused for many ages. Oh, there we go. We got a map there for it. Hey, a little bit of artwork. Sweet. I'm sure there's probably a decent amount of artwork here, just the way I've been skipping pages. Probably not lucking out. See, there we go. Another piece of art. Oh, there's a harem. Nice. The goblin harem is what it is. And is this the... Oh, hang on. Okay, so that kind of looks kind of strange here. Oh, okay, back to Blacktooth Ridge. Because I was going to say, is this supposed to be A2? Because it says for the Castle Keeper, and it's like, you know, like the introduction to an adventure, and it says introduction. I'm like, wait a second, where's A2? Russell says a goblin harem only beats a leper's harem. Flaming Ren says, not so sexy harem. Unless you're a goblin. Oh, then it's probably plenty sexy. I do want to point out, Russell had earlier mentioned that pure evil is where his ex-wife lives. So it looks like this is still part of A1. Wow, that's pretty good sized cavern sort of complex. So this appears to be quite a bit longer. I think the first A0 was maybe about 20 pages, and it seems like this was about 40 pages. So now we have A2, Slag Heap. So what we got going on here? This adventure is best suited as a gateway to other adventures and escapades of the Castle Keeper's making. The module's monsters, characters, and settings, though tied together by themes and plots, all offer an abundance of interesting asides and the potential for other adventures which are wholly unrelated to the Slag Heap. It is strongly recommended that the Castle Keeper develop and expand upon the encounters and associated adventures the characters may find themselves engaged with or interested in. Allow them to explore what interests them most, and greater fun will be had by all. So one thing I did want to mention that I have seen, now keep in mind, I have not dug too deeply into the Troll Lord Games website, but I have kind of peeked around at some of the adventures because I wanted to get a feel for what did they have for like low-level characters. And one thing I have noticed that I don't know if anybody from Troll Lord Games is actually going to see this video, I would recommend making it more obvious what levels the adventures are for. Because some adventures say, oh, this is for levels 6 to 10 or mid-level characters, and then some say nothing. So it's kind of like, what level is this for? You know? So personally, on the website itself, where you have the link where you would, you know, click on the adventure title, I would put what level it's for right there so that a potential buyer is going to see, oh, it's D3 and it's for levels 4 to 6, something like that, as opposed to kind of peeking around and not really knowing what levels some of these adventures are for. There are a lot of adventures that have been published for Castles and Crusades. Some are no longer in print. Some are no longer available as PDFs, I don't think. I gotta point out, in my opinion, just my opinion, I think the Troll Lord Games website could be better organized. It's not terrible. It's not like the old, say, oh, I don't know, Flying Buffalo website, which was like, oh my God, this is like straight out of 1995 in 2020. So Christopher Rush is popping on in to say hello, and they're hanging out there lurking. So I'm just trying to see what is our story here. So we have a creature called the Witch King and her servants. So I'm taking a guess that's going to be our big bad for this adventure. So I think as this campaign progresses, the player characters get to learn more about this Winter's Dark. And I think there are other adventures that build on that as well. Because I think Winter's Dark is like a big event in this setting. So there is a slag heap. That's why this is called Slag Heap, or the Slag Heap. Slag Heap sprawls over a wide area and consists of loosely linked encounter areas. These are made up of small mines and barrows, a haunted wood/shrine, and a host of tangled, winding tracks. There is little left of the gnomish community. Most of it has been uprooted or buried. What is left is occupied by servants of the Witch Queen. The Shrine of Waters, once a holy place, has been befouled by harpies. The Deepening Well is an active mine filled with gnome slaves. Black Hole is the pit within which Cernoius dwells. The collapsing caverns serve as a compound for the orcs and Ungern, and the maze serves as a house for prisoners. Dun, dun, dun. Coco B said they agree with what I was talking about with the Troll Lord website. Say, when they were looking at adventures recently, they had to click on more than a few to see if they were the level I wanted. Yeah, I just, gotta be honest. You want to try to be as upfront with what the adventures are and what levels they're for. Otherwise, who's going to buy them, right? If you're sitting there, you're like, I don't know. Is this for low levels, mid levels, high levels? One thing I had noticed is that there seemed to have been like a lot of adventures that were kind of like higher mid-level. It was sort of like, oh, another adventure for like levels 6 to 8. It's like, okay. It's like, where are the first level adventures? Kathy Evans is in chat with us, pointing out that they had a meeting they're finally able to watch. Well, glad to have you joining us. So here we have Wicked Cauldron. The Wicked Cauldron was designed as a single walkthrough adventure with several nights of play. To manage this, though, the players must be stealthy and smart, trying not to alarm the entirety of the Ziggurat's inhabitants of their presence. The castle keeper should do everything possible to impart the need for stealth and smarts to the players prior to and throughout play. It should be noted that the Ziggurat appears to be lacking in foes and creatures with which to give battle to the adventurers. This was done so as to allow for a single walkthrough. Add more if necessary by simply increasing the numbers of the creatures already present. This adventure is designed for 3 to 5 characters of 3rd to 4th level. Oh, so we've got more of the Witch Queen. So I don't know if the player characters have defeated her previously in the Slag Heap, or if they were just made aware of her. Ooh, there we go. Spiders. My best friend Elliot always hated when there'd be spiders in an adventure. And I'd always be like, yep, gonna make sure I got some spiders in this. Because he just hates spiders. Right, so it looks like this is a bit of a, well, it's not really a dungeon, it's a ziggurat. But it is, I guess we'll say it's a ziggurat crawl. It looks kind of like a dungeon crawl. It looks like we've got a good number of keyed locations. See, now this is something that I point out when you're looking at modern adventures for, say, 5e or Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and you compare them to a more old school style. And one of the first things you see is far more keyed locations on maps with old school vibed adventures than in newer, more modern style adventures. And one of the things that I notice a lot is in more like the 5e and Pathfinder 2nd Edition, every room has something. Now, you may only have 10 rooms, but every room has something going on. Whereas normally, in an old school sort of game play, you have rooms that just, there aren't monsters there aren't treasure items there. There's really not going to be much in there at all. And I'm fine with that, because the reality is you start looking at some of these more modern adventures, and most of the time there is absolutely zero dungeon ecology going on, where it's like, okay, so in this room you've got orcs, and then in this room you've got bugbears, and then in this room you've got a rust monster. It's like, what? How do these all coexist? You know, it's like, what's going on? So then we've got A4, Usurpers of the Fell Axe. I'll tell you one thing, that PDF over at DriveThruRPG, the number is incorrect, because just the adventure book itself has 176 pages. And I could have swore it said 133, which is not unusual. We do see that from time to time. We do see DriveThruRPG have a wrong page count. So let's see, what do we have here? Ludensheim was once called Gergis Gag and ruled by evil princes who served the dreadful Lord Unklar. Gergis Gag, when initially settled, consisted of little more than a bridge over the Yerusin River and several towers to guard that crossing. Many giants and trolls labored long and hard to make the bridge and towers to the exacting specifications of Unklar's engineers. Their work was a wonder then and is even now. So well were they made, they stand undiminished 1,000 years later. So we are looking at an adventure that's going to take place in the city of Ludenheim, and its leader has been ensorcelled by a cursed axe given to him by some priest of Unklar. So there you have it, the usurpers of the fell axe. So it looks like this might be an urban adventure. And then we have a keep. We have a central keep here. Here it says, I feel you would just love pronouncing all the names for your players, Jeff. What I normally do is I normally have a sheet of paper that I jot various different names and things like that down. So Russell says that's kind of why younger players don't like the old school stuff, because every room doesn't have something going on. I got to be honest, I don't think a lot of younger players actually get an opportunity to play old school stuff with someone who knows how to run old school stuff. So I'll be the first to point out, from my experience over the years, most game masters, get ready for this. Strap yourself in, because I might be upsetting some people out there. From my experience, from what I've seen, most game masters suck. End of story. They do. There are far, far too many game masters out there. It doesn't matter what system they're running. And I've mentioned this time and time again, that a good game master can take a lousy system and a crappy adventure and just make it the most magical and memorable experience you've ever had as a player. While a bad game master can take the greatest adventure campaign and shit all over it. So, sorry, but I have encountered far too many game masters who, you know, their descriptions in combat are like, okay, so the orc hits you with its axe for 6 points of damage. Wow, that is so exciting. That is so exciting. Plus, you've got far too many game masters who sit there and just read verbatim the read aloud, which would drive me nuts. Now, sometimes you've got read aloud, or there's some things that you want to present a nice kind of overall background for. Usually what I'll do is if I've got something that needs, it's paragraphs long, that needs to be presented to the players, I print it out and give it to them. I think they prefer to read it themselves or have one of them read it. So Fleming Heron said, nothing wrong with reading it so long as you don't have to take multiple breaths doing it. Well, that's the whole thing, too. And I say it all the time that it wasn't that long ago that Wizards of the Coast actually came out and said that read aloud should never be more than about 3 sentences long. Because if it's longer than that, players start mentally checking out. And then you'll see these adventures that come out and it's like, wow, this whole page, this is all read aloud. It's like, not gonna happen. So Flaming Heron said, the trick is to make them think something is in all the rooms. Or what you can also do is just simply not devote a lot of time to each of the rooms. Like if there's nothing in a room, there's absolutely nothing wrong with letting your players know, oh, well, okay, so this looks like it's a bedroom and the furniture's like smashed up and all the fabric is kind of all dusty and moldy and things like that. As opposed to, oh, well, we're going to spend 10 minutes of real time searching through this room. Try to zip them through quick when there's really not anything going on. So Coco B says, kind of like with sports cars, but with RPGs, a high-performance game with a low-performance game master. It happens. I think I have told the story before. It looks like we're in an appendix now with some NPCs. So we've got, oh no, I'm sorry, that was just for that adventure. Our final adventure, The Shattered Horn. And then I'll go back to what I was just talking about. It says, The Shattered Horn is the most recent adventure in a series beginning with Assault on Blacktooth Ridge. Well, not in this book. It actually started with A0, the Knight, or something Knight. Says, this adventure has been designed so that it can be played independently of the series. So the player character is going to run into Unklar, or somebody who's trying to revive Unklar. So as I had started to say, I tend to have a note sheet where I jot down the important NPCs, how to pronounce their names, or at least how I'm going to be pronouncing their names. And sometimes I'll just have a list of names that aren't assigned to anybody. And if I need to come up with a name for an NPC, I just go right to that little list. So Kevin says, since this is a compilation, we're probably getting appendices for each individual adventure. That was the first time I saw an appendix. I assumed it was, oh, we're at the end. Russell says, I think empty rooms add to the suspense. Tomb of Horrors, which is a bad mod. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Has many empty rooms, but the rooms that have stuff in them are so bad, they make you paranoid. Yeah, they're so deadly. Yes. Anyway, I was about to say, one of my absolute favorite role-playing experiences was at just a game day that was at some, I think it was at like a hotel. It was in a hotel ballroom that was in the Chicago suburbs. I think it was like Park Ridge or something like that. And there was a hobby shop called the Squadron Shop, which had games and models and stuff. And they were the ones who were sponsoring this game day. And we started playing in a game of Boot Hill that the game master was probably older than I am now. And it was phenomenal. And it was actually a takeoff on the John Wayne movie Chisholm. So it was like, okay. And it was, it was like a 4-hour game or 5-hour game. And like all this stuff happened. It was like, wow, this is awesome. And the gentleman turned out to, when we were done playing, he was telling us that he had actually contacted TSR and had been in the process of putting together a supplement for Boot Hill with a lot of his additional rules and stuff like that. And they had suddenly decided, nah. It's like, okay. Flaming Heron says, good GMs are in short supply and people aren't incentivized to become better at GMing. They aren't. That is very, very true. Most people and most players are just, oh, we're happy to have somebody run something for us. And a lot of players don't, know any better, really. All right, so here we've got the finale. And then the adventure continues with A6. Very cool. I am looking forward to checking this out because the reality is I have those supplements as well as the core books for Castles and Crusades. I don't have any adventures. I reached out to my contact over at Troll Lord Games asking about, continuing our relationship and providing coverage. And I said, I don't have any adventures. So there is the Umbrage Saga Part 1. What else we got in this box? As I pointed out before, this box is, I don't believe, available any longer. All right, come on. So I see we've got a map. So this is a map of, I think this is the Blacktooth Ridge area. So there we've got that. And then what is this? Blacktooth Ridge and Environ's encounter chart. Well, that's kind of cool. So we've got Blacktooth Ridge, Gruson River, Baron, Fulworth, and Elmart Mast forests. And then we have the Plains and East March. And it looks as if it is percentile dice. So we have human, demi-human, humanoid, giant, undead, and monster. And then we have it broken up by category. Dragons. Yes. Russell says they fault the players more than the GMs. They all want the same experience. They want the participation trophy, which leads to uncreative DMing. Yes. Many players just want to sit there and construct their player characters at home and then come to the table expecting the game master to plug their character into whatever they've prepared, which is pretty ridiculous. So Russell says, maybe the GM had access to Bill and Ted's time machine. Flaming Heron says, I'm a big fan of hot seat GMs. Give everyone a little experience and don't make it a set time, but just for an adventure at least, or more if they want. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Problem is that most game masters, as I pointed out, are not very good, and I do not necessarily want to sit at a table with a bad GM. So Russell Higgins says, I'm going to rename Blacktooth Ridge Gleam with Fluoride Saddle. All right, so this is our, oh, cool. I was thinking it was just the maps for locations, but it looks like we've got maps for the adventures as well. Oh, that's cool. That'd be very helpful as far as the PDF too. So here's Krugel's Lair and the Vargolg. Slag Heap. I would have to say for $29.99, this was a pretty cool box set. Seeing that you figure the book itself shows an MSRP of $24.99. So you get the box and the encounter chart and the map, as well as this book of maps for the additional $5. So you get the Palace Cellar, the Sanctum, the Pits. Very nice. So a big thank you once again to Stephen Loudermilk for sending along In the Shadow of Aufstrag for me to share with you. And of course, I will have a review of this in the near future. So Flaming Heron said, oh, for sure, Jeff, I would only do it with people who are longtime players, not just people new to the hobby, unless I had a reason to trust their ability. Yes. Just like my best friend, Elliot. He's all right. He's all right as far as a game master. He always points out I'm a better game master, which is fine, but he was, he ran some cool games. So I would certainly sit down and, enjoy a game with him as the game master. Other people I've encountered over the years, probably not. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera. Grab another sip here. So on tomorrow's show, we are going to dive on in and take a peek and page through Pathfinder 2nd Edition, Fists of the Ruby Phoenix. This is the 3-chapter adventure collected in the one hardcover, which is from Paizo Inc. So we'll be peeking at that. I have not decided yet if I am taking next week off or not. So I will let you know tomorrow. If I don't, then I think next week we will have Cyberpunk Red Week. Yes. And if I do take next week off, then it'll be the week after that. That will do that. All righty then. So if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. I noticed there are a few people who hang out and watch the show live who aren't giving it a thumbs up. I'm just saying. I don't know, if you hang around all the time and you're hanging out in chat, you should give a thumbs up to the video. So Russell Higgins says they are heading to Israel. Nice. Enjoy your trip. So Roger Prudhomme says the Pathfinder adventure has an AD&D Oriental Adventures vibe. Well, we just won't use that Oriental Adventure. No. So Flavor here says, who, Jeff? Tell me their names. Who's not giving a thumbs up? Anyway. Give a thumbs up to the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ding that bell. Because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings, currently, at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. I'll also inform you when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of Pathfinder Treasure Vault from Paizo Inc., as well as my first look at the first 3 adventures for Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth. I've got more of those adventures on the way as well. And, of course, I also shared my Paizo preview over the weekend to show you what's arriving in stores for Pathfinder and Starfinder this month. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, an even bigger thank you, because not only do you keep me company, you're keeping each other company while I'm mispronouncing fantasy names and places. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I really do appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. I will be back tomorrow, and here's hoping you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, that's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.